Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. So today's talk I titled The Ground of Energetic Joy. And it's our fourth paramita. And we okay. Oh, okay. So it's our fourth paramita. We've been going through the six paramitas slowly, little by little, over the past few months. So today's paramita is known as virya, and we typically think of this word as joyful effort or energetic joy. And the Google definition states that virya is a fundamental concept in Buddhism and Indian philosophy, meaning energy, effort, diligence, heroism. It represents the sustained inner power, the mental resilience and enthusiasm that's required to overcome obstacles, cultivate virtuous actions, and pursue spiritual growth, as often described as a vital energy. So I've spoken before of my many heroes, many well-known heroes that have that quality of diligence. Many courageous beings like Thich Nhat Hanh, Joanna Macy, Martin Luther King, that were so well known. But today I want to acknowledge the countless beings that are not so well known. In fact, many of them hidden and still changing the world. So here's a quote I heard from Brother Phap Lin, who is a senior teacher in Plum Village tradition. And he was talking about this famous quote from George Eliot from Middlemarch, who maybe some of you read in high school in 1870s. And the quote highlights it highlights the fact that the world's improvement relies on small, quiet acts of kindness and virtue from ordinary people, rather than just famous heroic actions. So these hidden lives have been making our world, a better place forever. And the full quote is a little bit hard, the way she wrote it. But the full quote was written by George Eliot, and it goes like this: "For the growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, and that things are not so ill with you and me as they may have been, half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life and rest in unvisited tombs." So I just wanted to acknowledge the quiet, courageous actions of so many people. So in Japan, they have these dolls that are called Dharma dolls, and we have a couple little paper ones on our windowsill. But the Dharma dolls in Japan are usually weighted really heavily at the bottom, so no matter what, when you push them over, they just bop up. And I was thinking of Ken and his sailboat, kind of like, the keel, you're leaning way over and then it usually comes back up. I said usually, yeah. Oh, okay. So anyway, it's kind of like that, the type of energy, that's always popping back up. So I want to explore that a little bit more. Where does that come from? And how is it sustained? But first I'd like to explore a little bit about what hinders this energy. I want to turn for a little bit to a talk that I found on YouTube from Ringu Tulka Rinpoche. I don't know of him, but his talk was called Wisdom in Action, Diligence, and he was talking about hindrances. So the opposite of diligence, the hindrance, is laziness or sloth. And laziness is really an important obstacle to diligence or joyful effort, he says, one that should be noticed and acknowledged. And Rinpoche says that it's taught that there are three kinds of laziness in particular. So I think those are just kind of good to be aware of. So the first paragraphs are paraphrasing his words. The first type of laziness is procrastination and delay. Sloppiness, sleeping, avoidance. This is about not wanting to make the effort to do things, not wanting to do what I should do. Rinpoche says that we should understand that this type of laziness brings unhappiness. He says, that we often think if we can avoid that work, we'd be happier. I'll be happy not having to do it. But actually, I'm unhappy because usually the whole time that I'm not doing it, I'm thinking about how I'm not doing it. So the more time that passes, often the more unhappy I get because I can't really enjoy the time, that I had off. I'm not free. So I'm not happy when I'm not doing it. And I'm not happy after because when I finally get around to doing it. So it does bring more suffering. And understanding this, we inspire ourselves to be motivated at getting the things done. And I think for a lot of us, maybe that was more prominent as we were younger, having to get our homework done or maybe even writing a Dharma talk, whatever. But I think we understand more and more that if we just get in there and do it, it's easier. So the second laziness is not understanding or actually intentionally arranging our priorities and our time in the wrong order. So this can be reflected in someone who's always busy. We say that we have no time to do that thing that needs to be done. We're too busy. And actually, if we really look clearly, we see that many of the things that occupy our time can be reduced. They're not always useful. They're not really beneficial. Really, we put them in our lives just to fill up space. They're fillers. To avoid what's really meaningful, but often requires true acceptance and perhaps courage. Acts with that are perhaps more beneficial to ourselves and to others, that we just kind of look the other way. So the third kind of laziness Rinpoche calls insulting ourselves. I'm too small, I'm too ignorant, I'm not efficient enough, I don't know how to do that. You decide that it cannot be done by you even before trying. So this is a kind of laziness because we don't even want to try. We look down on our own capacity. We don't accept how much capacity we truly have, how much possibility there is. We can just stop, all those possibilities to improve, to develop, to understand, because we shut them down before they even have a chance to arise. So, to give ourselves courage, to give ourselves the incentive to understand that perhaps I'm not the most efficient, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the best at whatever it is, or the most powerful, but I can change, I can develop skills, I can, train with these qualities. So being happy and willing to do this transforms this hindrance. And it is said that if we work on these hindrances, that we can really bring up that capacity to achieve things. There's nothing that we can't do with that kind of diligence, he says. So Rinpoche says this is the worst kind of laziness, the worst kind of sloth, because of that cutting off the possibilities before they've even had a chance to bloom. So I think it's really good, to be aware of the hindrances that we have at one time or another. We can often bring up mundane transformation in habit energies for these hindrances, especially the first two. But what do we need to sustain to sustain deeper, more intimate work of our lives? So I want to explore this a bit. Where does energy come from, not only to do work, with these frequent hindrances, but to work with a multitude of manifestations causing so much suffering in the world right now? Where do I find this sustained energy? How do I search for it? And if I find it, how do I hold on to it? So bodhicitta is what I consider a necessary ingredient in sustaining energy in this life, in my life. Our mind of love, or bodhicitta, is the deep wish to cultivate understanding in ourselves in order to bring happiness to many beings. It's the motivating force of the practice of mindful living. With bodhicitta as the foundation, everything we do or say will help us and others be liberated. So much of the content of the immense Avatamsaka Sutra, which many of you know is a fave, is demonstrating bodhicitta, the ever-sustaining, never-giving-up work of bodhisattvas, the enlightened beings. What can support us in developing this bodhicitta? The first thing that comes to mind as something essential for me is to develop right view. What is right view? This is the first practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. Shariputra described right view as the way to distinguish wholesome actions from unwholesome actions. In each of us, as Thich Nhat Hanh points out, there are both wholesome and non-wholesome seeds, and our practice is to learn how to water the wholesome seeds. At the base of our views is always perception, our perceptions, and the Buddha taught us not to be deceived by what we perceive, because most of our perceptions are wrong perceptions. Being aware of our perceptions can help us develop views that are clearer and in touch with the ultimate reality. And in Buddhism, we speak of the two truths, the relative, the worldly truth, and the truth of the conditional world. But looking deeply into the relative truth, we also penetrate the absolute truth of what Thich Nhat Hanh refers to as the ultimate dimension. Relative and absolute truths inter-are. One is not better than the other. One cannot be without the other. We have a self, but when we look deeply into the self, we see that it is all made up of non-self elements. A very important teaching in the Diamond Sutra is the teaching around lifespan. We think that we exist only from one point of time, and we suffer because of this notion. But if we look deeply, touching the ultimate dimension, we see that we have never been born and we never die. Within us, we carry the world of no birth and no death also, but we often never touch it because we're so ingrained in our notions. Developing our ability to hold both the relative reality, the conditional reality that we tend to perceive in ourselves, and the ultimate reality of the unconditioned at the same time is really helpful and freeing. It can begin, for instance, with a recollection. Oh, I see a fresh flower on the table. And at the same time, I can see its impermanence and that it's on the way to becoming compost. But I also see that the compost is on its way to becoming a flower. And I see that in this world of conditional things, everything is still here. And in the ultimate reality, there is no separate self. In the Avatamsaka, all is contained in one, and one is contained in all. So why is this helpful? Why is this a tool for not giving up, for diligence? For me, it's because when I touch the vastness of this world beyond separation, at the same time that I'm living in the world of form as a separate identity, those two truths allow me a much larger place to stand. There's a koan that says, "It is here, hidden within the mountain of form, the true jewel. This vast place is broader than my notions. It's beyond my ideas, it's beyond my small self. It's beyond my view of a separate self. So I can begin touching this ultimate reality that reveals no separation. And in this sense, there is no self and other. It's the place where I may respond, say, with my right arm instantly if my left arm is incapacitated. My right arm doesn't think, oh, well, I don't know if I want to help. It's just an immediate, thing because there is no separation. So it's beyond dichotomies and distinctions and signs. It's beyond my perception and notions and ideas. This is the place of freedom, and this is the place of boundless energy. It is from this place where I am capable of so much more than what my small self likes to paint a picture of. I notice how my energy can vary tremendously depending on where I'm at the moment. If I'm in touch with a deeper reality amidst my conditioned world, I have a vast energy. There is something that it's something that I've really been paying attention to. What am I doing and why? If hindrances are coming up, I found that it's really good to look at those as well. Why? Why are my hindrances coming up? And I'm learning also that things can shift in a minute. A moment is all that it takes, to touch a deeper, boundless reality, especially if it's something that I'm doing with love. This is where my boundless love can be found and where I can touch in whenever I want the infinite capacity of the joyful energy. I don't have to go looking for it. I only have to continue practicing to develop this understanding, not intellectually, but in an awakened sense. This remembrance, this right view is available in the present moment along with my conditioned world. I only have to recollect that it's always here. Even at times I don't recognize it. I think with practice, with mindfulness, little by little the heart of this understanding grows. So developing right view over time develops right thinking. And right thinking develops the diligence of bodhicitta, the mind of love. It's always right here and available right now. I only need to recollect that possibility that I can touch it. Like I said, I don't have to travel anywhere to touch it. I don't have to go anywhere other than how things are right now in the present moment. So I think again about the countless bodhisattvas that are not only doing well-known work, but doing continuous small acts of kindness in their daily lives. The unknown work of many is the work that goes unrecorded, but not without deep merit. I think that for those many courageous beings who don't give up over their lifetimes, whether they're Buddhist or not, they are touching this deeper realm beyond a separate self, beyond just their small self-identity, a place where the desire to act for the benefit of all beings is alive, here and now. And with these thoughts of kindness, big or small, I wanted to end with, in Kanho Chris style, she's not here right now, but with a poem, as is her way, usually. And so this poem is called Ordinary Things. I am in love with ordinary things of life, fresh air, acts of kindness, deep soul conversations, watching things grow, listening to the rain as it empties its heart towards earth, remembering the time I ran through unafraid, spontaneous, freedom-filled. I want pure joy. I get pure joy in the joy of others. I'm drunk on simplicity and nostalgia and old thrift shops run by old volunteers who just want to change the world one human being at a time. I greet the morning with eyes that still have remnants of pain, but will see their way through it. I'm determined to create something beautiful every day, whether art or peace or a path for those who are lacking in light. I wish for nothing more than soft hands filled with giving. This is where I find my rest. And it's by Yuli K. So thank you very much. And I think we have time to get into a couple small groups for just a few minutes. So maybe